color, drama, and excitement. The American Sports Cavalcade. It's been called the World Series of short track stock car racing, the Super Bowl, the richest of them all, the hardest race to win. And all those labels fit the TNN All American 400. Hello, everyone. I'm Steve Evans, and the grandstands here at Nashville Motor Raceway are packed with people from all over the country, in fact, as far away as Canada, because this is the annual war between three different sanctioning bodies. All Pro from down south, the ASA Cars, American Speed Association from the Midwest, and the American Canadian Tour Stars from the Northeast and Canada. So there's tremendous regional pride at stake here, along with well over $100,000. To find out more about the cars and the drivers we'll see today on the grid is Brock Yates.
I'll tell you what, Steve, it's going to be a wild afternoon. Grandstands full of folks. Behind me, 40 of the finest short track stock cars in the world and a bunch of the very, very best drivers. On the pole in this brand new Chevrolet Illumina, number 12, from Eau Claire, Wisconsin, Steve Burgess, in a fine, fine performance in qualifying. And, Steve, you got to feel good about leading this big, big field around here on this pace lap.
I sure do. It's an important race, and we feel fortunate to be here on the pole.
Steve, you got a couple of at least 2 pit stops. You got a lot of strategy involved. Are you going to try to pace yourself? Or are you going to just try to play the rabbit and let them chase you?
Well, we're going to try to play the rabbit and let them chase us, but the important lap is at the end. That's when we want to lead.
Well, we sure wish you luck. Steve Burgess, starting on the pole here today, starting on the outside of the front row, the Winston Cup veteran and the beautiful number 98 Ford Thunderbird from Chatsworth, Georgia, Jody Ridley. Let's go down to my pal, the number 3 member of our broadcast team, a guy who has run maybe 3 times as quick as these automobiles will go, but only in a straight line, Big Daddy Don Garlitz. Don?
Thanks, Brock. From Dorr, Michigan, qualifying in the number 3 spot, driving his Bluebird, Bob Seneker. They sometimes refer to Bob as the sneaker in the pits because you're liable to look out the back window and he'll be sneaking up on you to win one of these races. The next car is driven by the exciting young driver Rick Crawford. Now, we watched Rick last week start from the back of the field and win one of the qualifying races to qualify him number 4. Now, Rick, it's going to be a lot different today, starting way up here in the front than in the back last week, wouldn't you say?
Yes, sir, it is. We got 400 laps to run today, and last week it was just, you know, a 50-lap race, and we were starting from the back. We wanted to get comfortable in the field. Well, when the race started, we let the race go about 20 laps and tried picking the cars off one at a time, and the longer we got in the race, the closer we got to the front. So there, 30 laps into the race, we said, well, we're going to try to win this thing, and so that's what happened. We won, and finally we start in second row outside for the 400, and hopefully we'll have a good run today. But strategies change. Long race, we'll try to let the track come to us in the race, and you know, if we can win it, we're going to try.
Well, we wish you the best there, Rick, and hope you do well.
Really appreciate it.
Okay, Brock, back to you.
Well, Don, starting 5th is the veteran from Oakville, Ontario, a man who is as tough as they come on the short tracks, Junior Hanley. And, Junior, we saw you run real strong here last year, your first time ever in Nashville. You got to feel good about your chances today.
Well, the car's working a lot better than it did last year, and the motor's running really good. We got a different motor builder now, and the motor's really accepted it.
So you got some hitters around you. You're going to have to work hard today. Have you got a strategy worked out? Or are you just going to play the yellows and hope you get some good shots at tire changes?
Well, we're going to run the car, just see how it feels, and we want to keep the tires under the car. So if we can run up front easy, we will, and if we can't, we will have to run at the back.
Well, we'll be watching you. All the best. Junior Hanley, always a great competitor. And beside him, the number 81 car from Detroit, Michigan, Harold Fair, also a very strong competitor in the ASA ranks, and a man we're going to be watching all afternoon. And now, let's go back to Steve.
Inside row number 4, defending 400 champion Butch Miller. He has an opportunity to become the first man to ever win this big event back-to-back years. That's a Camaro that's entered as Illumina. Don't ask.
outside of row number 4, next to Butch Miller, one of the Racing Wallace family from St. Louis, Missouri, Kenny Wallace, the younger brother of Rusty Wallace, the man who's already made a great name for himself in stock car racing, both here in ASA and in Winston Cup.
And another young driver that an awful lot of fans expect great things from is the man in the number 53 car from Green Bay, Wisconsin, representing the American Speed Association. That is Scott Hansen.
On the outside of row 5, from right here in Franklin, Tennessee, one of the great local favorites, fine young driver coming back from a bad crash earlier this year, Mike Alexander.
The ASA is also grabbed inside of row number 6 in the person of this driver in car number 90. That is Kent Stopper, Elyria, Ohio.
And starting on the outside of row 6, a man who ran in ASA for years now, transferred south to run with the All-Pros out of North Miami Beach, Florida, Bobby Dotter.
And Dotter was a fellow who came in his qualifier from way back to finish fourth, so he's got a lot of muscle and a lot of skill. Final preparations being made, seat belts attached, helmets strapped on, radios connected and tested. In just a moment, the combatants in the TNN All American 400 will take to this 5/8 mile oval in Nashville. We're back at Nashville Motor Raceway. You're looking at the man who will sit on the pole in his car number 12. That is Steve Burgess. Over 40 competitors just now pulling out from their diagonal parking places to start the first of several pace laps. Now, all of these cars are really fundamentally the same as far as the thought process that goes into not only the chassis but the engines. Well, that is with one major exception, and that's the car we were just talking about that rolled out to lead this field, Steve Burgess in car number 12. It is a radical departure earlier. Brock Yates had a look at it.
This number 12 Lumina of Steve Burgess, which sits on the pole, looks a lot like most of the other race cars in the field externally. And, of course, it carries a 9-to-1 compression ratio, Chevrolet V6. That's pretty common. But believe me, that's where the similarity ends. Notice here that this engine plate links the engine as a stressed member of the chassis. That makes the chassis much more rigid. You see how this plate links the two front suspension components. Those are coilover with A-arms, pretty conventional stuff. But this plate makes this race car much more rigid chassis-wise than the competitors. Also, look at how Burgess and Bemster have laid the radiator down and using an electric fan as opposed to one that's up on front of the engine pulley. That reduces the center of gravity and reduces the frontal area as well, once again aiding handling. Now, these guys, this car built in DeLand, Florida, has also got a very advanced rear suspension, much like the Winston Cup cars. Very tricky stuff. So while the car probably doesn't have a whole lot more horsepower than everybody else, its superior handling has been responsible for putting it on a pole.
It also has an information gathering system, i.e. a computer that they got from Draggers with Joe Amato on board to analyze all of those various things. And here is a gorgeous shot of Burgess in the silver car and Jody Ridley in the blue car. They are pumped up. You can bet on it, Brock.
Oh, boy. Rick Crawford and Bob Seneker, they won the qualifying races last week, 250 lappers to put them up in the second row. And behind them, just a whole bunch of fine short track drivers from, as you said earlier, 3 associations, basically spanning every state east of the Mississippi and a little bit west of the Mississippi in some cases. But these are classic all-American short track automobiles. And the guys have done a super job to put them all together from the 3 associations and make the rules relatively equal.
That's right. You've got low compression V8, you've got low compression V6s with the lighter weight automobile, you've got high compression V6s, and strangely enough, there's an equality there. It works.
It really does. All the cars, give or take, about 50 or 75 pounds, about 2,700 pounds. Put the driver, it's 22 gallons of fuel on board. You get about a 3,000-pound race car with about 550, maybe 600 horsepower. So they're very, very good race cars. All fiberglass bodies, tubular steel chassis, of course, and independent front suspension, solid rear axles. Great, strong, tough race cars campaign all over the United States on short tracks like this. This is a big track, 5/8 of a mile. I think the pace car is going to roll off, and Burgess and Jody Ridley are going to bring them down for the start, Steve.